Well, hello there. I am hoping this works because I was having some issues and I had the time incorrect. Starting next week, I will be on at 5 p.m. This week, I am still on at 4 p.m. So I apologize for that. All right. So this week, my question for you is this: do you have some organization to do with your friendships? And you might be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. That's okay. Stay tuned. And that's what we're going to chat about in just a moment. All right. Hi there. I am Mariah Young. In case you don't know me, I am the Gals CEO as well as the Signature Self Specialist. And please make sure to say hello if you are on. Of course, StreamYard does not show me who is on. So I rely on you guys to let me know if you're watching and to say hello. Of course, if you have any questions, you can ask those too. So today we're going to talk about relationships and the tiers of closeness. Tiers, T-I-E-R versus tears, the crying tears, which actually both could work in some ways. This was something that I created for myself because I needed to get organized with my friendships. We only have so much time and effort and emotion to put into this world and relationships. And I came to a place where I was just meeting so many people. And I wanted, of course, to have coffee with everybody. And I wanted to, create these amazing relationships with everyone because that's part of my personality. But I realized I just didn't have time for everybody. So I realized very quickly in that time that I needed to have a way to organize myself so that I could actually follow through on the friendships that I really wanted to have and make sure that I was investing my time in the right places. So, hello, I see someone has said hello. I'm not sure who it is. I apologize. It is not telling me who, but I can see that you're on Facebook. So you must be in Gals. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to pull up our worksheet today. It is a very, very simple worksheet, honestly, but most of these worksheets actually are very simple. And they're that way for a reason. They're not complicated concepts. And I wouldn't want them to be complicated concepts because they're things that I want you to be able to implement in your life quickly and easily. So I'm going to go ahead and push present. You can actually find this, of course, in the Gals Facebook group for free. Hey, Patty Lynn. All right. Thank you for letting me know. So if you're watching from YouTube, make sure that you go and check us out at our Facebook group, Gals, and it is G.A.L.S. So you can find us. And I believe the link is in the description. All right, here we go. Let's pull this up. Here we are. Okay. So you can see here the relationships page, Tiers of Closeness. So really what I want you to do is I want you to look at who you spend time with. And the reason I call these tiers is because, well, not everybody gets to make it into your inner circle. They kind of have to earn that place. And that may sound arrogant, but quite frankly, not everyone belongs there. They just don't. They can't handle everything that you need them to be able to handle to be in that place, whether they are emotionally supportive, etc., just the things that you need them to be. Someone who will listen, who will have a conversation, whatever that is. So, the people, I'm actually going to start at the bottom because I think sometimes this is easier. And quite frankly, this is a very big topic lately, which is toxic people in our lives, right? So, of course, there are toxic people. There are people that we should let go of in our life. They might be Facebook acquaintances. They might be somebody that we met through somebody else. And for some reason, they are getting more time in our space, whether that's physical, emotional, energy, space, right? They are taking it up and they should not be. So those ones I actually find are a little bit easier. We can just rip that band-aid off and we can take care of it. We can block them. We can or we can, unfollow them. You don't always have to unfriend. Sometimes you can just unfollow and that's fine too, especially if it's someone that you're going to interact with regularly. Unfriending them, they can find that out pretty easily, but if you unfollow them, I don't think they can ever see that. I don't even know how they would. So that's just a little tip for you right there. So you can unfollow them. But those are usually pretty obvious. Anyone who is sucking the life out of you, who doesn't respect your boundaries, who, says terrible things that makes you feel bad. I mean, anyone who makes you feel worse when you leave them than when you first came to them, you should probably go ahead and ixnay those in whatever way you can. I know it sounds terrible, but it's true. It's true. Or sometimes we have those people that we cannot eliminate completely from our circle because maybe they're family. Or maybe they're, friends with somebody that we are really close to. And so they're there, right? We can't probably, usually that's something that we don't really have control of as far as why or how they're in our lives. And so these are the people that I am going to talk about first. These are the people that you love from a distance. So in this, it is important for you to set up your boundaries, which we did talk about, I believe, last week when we talked about non-negotiables and deal breakers. These are the people that just do not respect your boundaries. They're calling you all the time. Maybe they're calling you at weird times. They're always asking you to do stuff with them. And sometimes, that's great. We want to do stuff with people, but these people are the kind of people that you're like, I don't really want to spend time with them. And quite frankly, they are the people that if you say no to them, they're going to ask a million times, why? Why? Why don't you do this? Why can't you do this? Why won't you do this with me? Those are the people you need to give less time to in your life. So there are some ways that you can do this. And, one of the easiest ways is just to say, I'm sorry, I'm not available if they're asking you to go do something. I have had these kinds of people in my life many times, as I'm sure many of you have as well. And the easiest thing to just say is, I'm sorry, I don't have time. No would be the easiest. Many people say no is a full sentence. And I do agree with you on that. But these are the people that will not honor that easily. They are going to try and find reasons why you cannot get together with them. They're going to ask a lot of questions. They're going to basically make you feel like they're challenging you. And I've definitely had these people in my life where you feel like you have to explain everything. You shouldn't have to, but these people will make you feel like you should. So yes, you can say no, but you can also find other ways to say no. I'll be honest, I've had such a person in my life that they would even show up on my doorstep. Like that's how bad this one particular person was. Now that's a whole nother level. Most people these days aren't going to do that. Typically you can just not answer texts or not answer your phone, whatever that is, you can just do that. Again, you can unfollow them so you're not seeing all of their stuff. Or you can just be too busy when they ask. So find whatever way you need to love them from a distance, to say no. All right. So the next one is a little more difficult only because we can feel really guilty about this. We, depending on your personality, of course, some people can just totally be introverted and it's amazing and they don't feel like they need to get together with people, and their people know that too. So they respect that, which is awesome. If you're anything like me, or you're a people pleaser, which I can be a people pleaser from time to time, believe me. If you're a people pleaser or you're an includer, somebody who enjoys being around people, wants everybody to be able to be a part of what you're doing, You could feel really guilty about even writing a name down on the spend less time with. Now, listen, you get to define what spending less time means. Does this mean someone that you are maybe doing coffee with every 6 months? Or you reach out and say, hey, how are you doing? Just not frequently. You get to decide what that looks like for you. These are probably not the people that you're going to call once a week, right? You get to decide that. So these are the people who you probably mostly interact with, like on social media, maybe at, random kids events at school. I don't know. They're usually sporadic. It's not going to be somebody that you see all the time. Just the person that you're like, hey, yeah, I actually would love to have them on my list to catch up with from time to time. That's who this list is. And that is the people when you like see them, like maybe at the store or whatever, and you're like, oh, hey, we should do coffee. Add them to this list. It's perfect. And then you have a list of people that you want to follow up with from time to time. It sounds like a business venture, but I think actually treating it that way is not the worst thing in the world, right? Because then you might actually consistently call people. Maybe you call them once every 6 months. That's great. That's probably more than you were doing before. And you're actually going to really build a relationship on that. You never know. That person could become someone because you do that, where you guys are like, oh, you know what? I forgot how much we get along. Maybe we should meet more often. That's totally up to you. This is your sheet. You get to decide what works for you. And finally, and maybe this is probably the easiest one, maybe not, depends again on your personality. For me, this is actually it's mostly easy, but I am an includer, so I can very easily want to add too many people to this list. But spend the people that you want to spend the most time with. So these are the people who add to your life. These are the people that when you get together, you feel better when you are leaving them versus worse. You feel built up, you feel energized, you are loving life, you just love being around them. Now, I will say sometimes there are some obligatory people that we should put on this list. And that can be, maybe siblings and or, parents that you may want to put on this. It doesn't mean that they don't lift you up, but they may be people that you want to make sure, family, you want to make sure that you are keeping a good relationship with them. So they are good to add to this if your relationship is healthy. If not, you might actually be putting them on the opposite list. And I have had people do this when I'm coaching them because their family's not healthy for them. So you got to decide what is the right fit for these. But these are the people that you're going to invest more time in. For me, this is my husband, my kids, my mom, my mother-in-law, um, a few neighbors that I'm trying to get to know. It doesn't necessarily have to, you can decide, okay, maybe these are people I want to call once a week, like my mom, my kids, that kind of a list. And maybe you want to have something where you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to try and get together with them at least once a month. That's where I would put, some of my new neighbors because I'm trying to build a relationship with them and have, make some new friends. So I would put them on this list. And I would probably actually go ahead and break it up that way, week, month, and I don't know, maybe quarter. It depends. Again, this is your list. You get to decide. I probably should have broken it up like that, and maybe I will for the next iteration of this, but I don't really want to make you feel like you have to put it in any way. I would actually rather leave it nice and open and blank and let you decide what you want. But I feel like it's at least worth mentioning it because this is your sheet. You can decide how you want this set up for you. So I know we are talking about dumping the junk this month. We go through Discover You, Dump the Junk, and Design Your Ideal Life. And you may be wondering, well, how is this relevant to dumping the junk? I will tell you, I've heard this for years. You guys may have heard this too. It's probably a cliche at this point, but you are like the 5 people that you hang out with the most, right? And so, with that being so true, and I do think it's true, I've needed to hang out with different people for different parts of my life too. And people come and they go, they're here for a season. Learning how to deal with relationships really can be a key to designing the life that you want, you know. And it also can be the opposite. It can also be something that tears you down so that you do not build the life that you want. You get to decide. I will tell you, I have key people in my life for key things. Now, are they only in my life for those key things? No. But they are a key component of my ideal life. For example, I have 2 girlfriends whom I truly, fully trust. I may have more people than that I trust, but these 2 particular friends, we've made a pact. We do not speak illy or rudely. We don't use sarcasm or joke about our spouses. We just don't do it. Now, talking to each other about issues or things that we're going through is totally different. We're not putting them down. We're discussing a solution-based type. We're having a solution-based kind of conversation. I also know that those 2 friends, we have agreed that we are going to point each other back to our relationships because they're healthy relationships. And we know that and trust that about each other's marriages. And so we have that pact together, which I think is actually pretty vital, especially today when we see so many relationships not lasting. I actually think having friends who support you and are like-minded in that way are very important. I have called upon them many times and needed to chat with them many times. And I just really appreciate being in a group of ladies where I'm not just hearing all these put downs about their spouse and all of that. I really feel like those women who are doing that, it says a lot more about them than it does about their spouse. Often. Not always, but often. And I just didn't want that kind of relationship. So it was really important and vital to me to put those kinds of relationships into my life to help me with that. When we were getting out of debt, this wasn't something that it wasn't necessarily people that I surrounded myself with, but it was a podcast of people who were doing the same thing that we were doing, getting out of debt. They were, saving money. They were putting a lot of money towards their debt. They were calling in to scream, "I'm debt free." If you haven't guessed, it was a Dave Ramsey podcast. And my kids actually to this day still despise that song because we listened to it so much. But for me, at that time, I needed to surround myself with that. We had people constantly criticizing us for what we were doing, why we were living in a smaller place, why we weren't buying a house at the time, all these different things. And I just needed people in my life, even if it was at a distance. And I actually invested a lot of time in this podcast. I listened to it all the time. When we were driving, walking, in the house, it didn't matter because I really needed that support. And it made me feel so much better about what we were doing and made me feel like I could do it, inspired me. So that's not a person, but I still think it's vital. That's a whole nother topic about what you let in. But I still do think just having the people talking, because there was a lot of people interviews and stuff like that, it actually did help a lot. So making sure that you are not allowing people in your life on a regular basis who are going to steal your energy, your emotional, actually even your emotional energy, your physical energy, all of that is really key to designing the life that you want. You don't need a bunch of naysayers around you. You don't need people who are going to pull you down and who are going to make you feel worse every time you see them. It takes a lot to pull out of that kind of a scenario and situation. When you come out of that, it takes so much effort to pull yourself back up. So if the less that you could do of that, the better. All right. I think that I have covered this pretty extensively at this point. If you have any questions or comments to help anybody else with this situation, with the friend relationships, please feel free to share in the comments. But if this is something that you were like, I'm just really struggling with this, I know relationships can be hard. Like in just talking about it right now, I'm talking about it pretty easily. But I can tell you it has taken a lot of work, a lot of tough conversations, and a lot of just intentional time to get where I am today, where the people in my life are mainly people that I have chosen and have decided to invest in. So I understand that it takes work, it takes effort, it takes intentionality. Oh my gosh, do I know? So I am here to help. Feel free to reach out. I would be happy to have a conversation with you about this. All right, guys, have a fantastic day. Until next time, I will see you later and live creatively. Bye.